I'm Cassidy, one of your Indianapolis Colts cheerleaders, and you're watching the Believe in Colts podcast.
Welcome back to Believe in Colts. I'm Lawrence Owen. With me, as usual, are my guys Jerraud Powers and Rodney McLeod. And, oh, wow, news. We've been talking about who the next head coach of the Indianapolis Colts are going to be for a while now, ever since the season ended for the Indianapolis Colts. A lot of speculation, long time waiting. I personally, Ballard said, during his end of season press conference, this could last until the mid-February. Guys, it's February 14th. You don't get more mid than that. There's only 28 days in this month. So it's dead on. I was saying it could be, the week after right after the Super Bowl, because of interviews of guys that might be coaching in the Super Bowl. Well, guess what? Shane Steichen, ladies and gentlemen, that should be your new head coach for the Indianapolis Colts. I want to remind everyone that BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season, everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use that promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your rewards. BetOnline, where the game starts. Jerraud, thoughts on Shane as, the guy here in Indy for, who knows how long?
Well, I don't know Shane personally, but it seemed like the Eagles front office, organization, and coaches everybody seemed to be trying to get their guys, all across the league. So, but just looking at the Eagles offense the past couple of years, I mean, obviously they got a great scheme, great players and all those type of things. And they do a good job of developing quarterbacks over there, no matter who's at the helm. Carson Wentz has success there, Nick Foles, obviously, and now you see Jalen Hurts having success there. So I'll be eager to see the direction Shane will want to go in the quarterback room, with the Colts, and how we'll look, from that standpoint. But it seems like anybody that you can grab from the Eagles organization, that they're a hot ticket right now. They've been the standard for the past few years.
It's weird, Rodney. This is kind of odd because you played on a team with Shane Steichen in 2021. You played this past year with Frank Reich, and both of them were the offensive coordinators for the Eagles when they went to the Super Bowl. That's kind of, I don't know. I thought that was a bit of a weird thing, right? And then end up becoming the Colts head coach right after that. So your thoughts on Shane Steichen being the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts?
I think Shane Steichen is a great candidate, what I'm saying, and a great decision to, bring him in as the, new head coach for the Colts. And he's well respected in that building over in Philly and across the league. And, Jerraud knows you have a chance to go to the Super Bowl, and obviously they didn't win, but, you now become a hot commodity, as Mike Jones say, man, back then didn't want me. Now I'm hot. They all on me. And so that's what you're seeing is from that staff over there. A few guys are getting their opportunity to be able to lead a team. And I think, Shane has a great track record of not only on the offensive side, but, just looking at his resume, he was a defensive assistant, at one time. He's done quality control. He's been an assistant coach, OC. So he's done a lot within a team, and he's seen a lot. And so that perspective alone allows you, just to have a better viewpoint from a holistic standpoint as a coach and as a head coach at that. You get both sides of the ball in the football, and then you add the fact that he's played, at one point. So he knows, has that player mentality. And then you see the job that he's done with quarterbacks. It's particularly young quarterbacks. And so when you look at that and you see the Colts now and don't know what the future holds, but, there's a lot of talks about, possibly picking up a young quarterback in the draft, right? And so having the ability of somebody who has experience, that can will take those steps with that quarterback, put him in good position to succeed, and help him grow in the way that you want to see for your team to have success. You know, he's probably the best guy out there right now as you look at, you know, all the rest of the candidates that they have listed.
Absolutely. Talking about his history with quarterbacks, I mean, the last three quarterbacks that he's worked with, Phillip Rivers, Justin Herbert, and Jalen Hurts. I mean, that right there pretty much lists the type of quarterbacks there are in the NFL, right? Completely, you know, all the way around the board. Head coaches, they have a lot of say-so in the players that the GM or whoever is drafting for a team brings into the organization. And as an offensive mind, Steichen's going to have a lot of input on the type of quarterback that Chris Ballard will be bringing in. And because he's coached three different quarterbacks, three different style quarterbacks, does that make it a little bit more difficult on who, you know, he might be going for, say, in the draft, you think, Jerraud?
I'm not sure. It depends on his system and the style that he wants to run. Obviously, when the quarterbacks that you name, they're all different, like you said. So to me, as a player, what I'm taking from that is it seems like you got a coach that's willing to adjust, you know, what he does offensively to fit what's available to him as far as in the quarterback room. So that's a plus right there, you know, and maybe it doesn't matter, you know, the style. He just wants the better quarterback, and he'll be able to adjust his system and some of the things that he do and put that guy in the best position possible. So for him to have, like you said, multiple different style of quarterbacks that he's worked with in the past, which all has been successful. It just shows you that he's willing to change up some of the things that he thinks schematically that'll work for either of those guys. So, I mean, that's a plus right there going into the building.
And Rodney, the last two quarterbacks in particular, he's walked into the NFL and they've both had instant success, as you have said, you know, between Herbert walking in and just shocked the NFL, and then obviously Hurts over there in Philly. Is it safe to expect that he could probably do that again with the third quarterback here in Indy?
I think as you look at his track record, you would say there's a good chance. And there's a high probability that can happen. Of course, you know, nothing is ever guaranteed, but I think he knows the qualities and the characteristics and has, you know, the ability to get the most out of his players. And I think the biggest thing, to Jerraud's point, is allowing players to play to their strength, right? And him understanding who is lining up behind center and how do I adjust, you know, my game plan and my scheme to fit them in whatever stage that they're in their career, right? Like there are phases, you know, that you go through. And so you have to understand, you know, maybe as a coordinator, head coach, I can't put too much on, you know, my quarterback at this point in time. You know, I have to give him just enough, right? And there's steps, there's baby steps as you progress. And so I think he'll do a good job at managing whatever quarterback he has and play, you know, more importantly, to their strength.
Absolutely. Jerraud, here's a question that I've been trying to work this around in my mind for a while. When a head coach is announced and comes in, first immediate thing that he needs to do is get himself a staff around him, right? And if he keeps Gus Bradley, does that make it easier on him, or does that make it a little bit more difficult when it comes to the defensive side and he only has to worry about offensive side? Or does him and Gus Bradley, you think, need to get together and discuss the support staff around the defensive side? I'm trying to wrap my hand around that.
I'm pretty sure he's probably going to meet with everybody, but normally when you bring a head coach in, he already has guys that, you know, he wants to work with, guys that, you know, he feels fit his culture and his environment, the best. I mean, obviously he's going to come in and he's going to listen to the owner. He's going to listen to Jim Irsay and Chris on what they would recommend for our staff and all those things. And if Gus fits, what he wants to do and what he wants the defense to look like, Gus will be there. I mean, I think everybody understands at the end of the day, it's not something that you can take personal when a head coach comes in and he has just certain guys that he wants, on his team and on his staff. So I'm pretty sure that he'll meet with Gus, and if Gus fits his style, that the way that he feels a defense, should look and what he wants it to look like while he's at the helm of things, Gus will be there. Because like Rodney said, we got a coach that actually worked on the defensive side of the ball, so it's not like it's a foreign, something foreign to him and he don't kind of have a clue or have an idea of what a defense should look like. Like he knows exactly, what's what he wants his defense to look like. And like I said, if Gus fits that, Gus will be there.
All right, Rodney, here's the thing. All right, I'm putting you in Shane Steichen's shoes. It's historical. When a guy goes and is hired as a head coach from one team to another, from like a coordinator to become a head coach at another, he tends to poach coaches from his former team to come over and play. Can you name me some guys on that staff that if you were in Steichen's shoes, you'd be like, I would want that guy right there helping me out in my new position as a head coach?
That's a great question. But I got to go to the defensive side of the ball. And, one of my favorite coaches all time, man, he had the ability to coach me not only in the league, but high school as well, which is rare. Denard Wilson. And, he's a secondary coach in the leagues, done it at a high level for a long time. Of course, you saw what, a secondary, did, for that team this year. And so, he's somebody, just his experience, his coaching habits and style is just, and character and what he brings to a defensive back room and I think a staff as a whole is somebody who I could just identify as, I would want him on my team, and not saying that he's going to bring Denard along, because obviously if he keeps Gus, there are certain individuals in place already. Milo, who's another great coach that I had the pleasure of working with this year, who's already intact. So it'll be interesting, but that's somebody that I can point to and say, that's somebody that if I'm Shane Steichen and I go anywhere, I would love to have Denard Wilson, as a representation of my defense in some capacity, D coordinator, DB coach, whatever it might be. But what's interesting about, whether or not he keeps Gus is he knows Gus very well, from San Diego, now LA Chargers. And so that relationship there, they know one another very well. And so I would think, if the Colts have already kind of hinted at keeping Gus, they've had those conversations probably with Shane up to this point about how do you feel about Gus, you being around him and working with him and going against the defense every single day at practice and just understanding who he is as a man and a leader. Is that somebody that you want also, leading the defense this year, now as you as a new head coach? So be interesting to see what happens, but there's a lot of familiarity there already.
Absolutely. Now, one of the big things that was a problem with the Indianapolis Colts was the offensive line this past year. They had a lot of troubles getting back into the rhythm that they were used to playing it for years and years and years. Steichen coming in, coming from a team where that offensive line has generally played phenomenal football for years now. Do you think that Jerraud would you be interested in seeing Steichen maybe bringing in like the assistant O-line coach over to take over the role as the offensive line coach or something of that nature?
I don't know. Like I say, I'm like Rodney. From the offensive standpoint, I don't know. I think as a coach, when you're offense or defensive guy, let's just say Shane's offensive guy right now, you got to just do what you think's best to fit what you want to do as a head coach. Anything that happened last year is irrelevant. You're going to self-scout. You're gonna, evaluate everybody that played every snap and all those type things. But I mean, you're literally coming in here with a fresh slate. Nobody's going to judge you off of last year's O-line or anything like that. So you got to come in and bring guys in with you, or whatever you got to do to showcase what you want the coach to look like. So everything that happened with the O-line this past year, it's irrelevant, for Shane to come in, because he's going to come in with his own style, his own scheme, his own blocking, his own ways on how he wants things blocked. And it's not going to look like what it looked like what we were doing last year from a scheme standpoint. So Shane got to come in, and he's going to, no different than when I was a free agent in 2013 and Bruce Arians going to Arizona. He brought his own guys in, his own scheme. He did not mention anything the year previous on any play that any guy made from that team. So Shane got a fresh start, and it's one of those exciting type of fresh starts, because he's coming from, Philly, to where every time we watched these guys this year, we were just impressed, with their offensive line and their offensive scheme. So I'm just excited to see what he's going to do with what he has in the coach locker room right now.
Absolutely. He's got just about every position he's got to fill flat out on the offensive side anyhow, right? There's no there's no coordinator over there. There's no running backs coach. Heck, the running backs coach, Scotty Montgomery, is assistant head coach over there with the Lions, and he's trying, is it the Vikings, I think, that I just saw a report trying to poach him again to be an offensive coordinator for them. So, and then of course the tight ends coach is gone. I don't know what's up with Strausser, the offensive line coach. The only guy I think that has even a shot, who's still around and still wants to play or coach on the offensive side, is Reggie Wayne. So, he's got a lot to work with there. We talked about the defense. Is he going to have a meeting with Bubba as well? Bubba Ventrone? That's another, the team is built on three people or three units. You got your offensive, your defensive, and your special teams. And me personally, I feel like the defense and the special teams really played incredibly well last year. What are your thoughts on Bubba Ventrone, Jerraud? Just in general.
I think he's a great coach. I think they did a good job this year as a unit and all that. But I'm gonna just keep going back to, when you're a head coach, you got certain guys that you want to be with, and it's not necessarily mean that, Bubba's a bad coach if he don't retain him or anything like that. It's just part of the business, man. You're gonna bring in the guys that you want to work with, the staff that you already kind of had formulated before you even got the job. Because there's one thing about it. If you're gonna get fired, and once you're the head coach, at some point you're gonna get fired. That's just part of the business. Nobody's gonna be with one team forever in their career. But if you're gonna
Bill
go,
Belichick,
true. But even he was with the Browns at one point.
Yeah.
So but what I say is, if you're gonna win or lose, and as a head coach in this league, you're gonna do it with the guys that you want to do it with, and not with guys that you're forced to be with or anything like that. And that's no knock on any of the coaches that may not be retained. They might be great coaches, just like you said. We got one guy that's left and is already been other teams are trying to get him as an offensive coordinator and all these different things. This is just the business side of the NFL, and they're trying to work. They're trying to work through that. And once they get through it, I'm pretty sure we'll have a solid staff, whether those guys stay or not.
So, Rodney, I'm not going to ask you about, whether or not Steichen should keep Bubba, but I do know that you worked with Bubba quite a bit on the special team side this past year. And I'm just curious your thoughts on Bubba as the special teams coordinator for this past season with the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, Bubba's sharp. He's a guy who demands excellence and will get the most out of his players. And he, regardless of years on the special teams, it doesn't matter. He's holding you to the highest level possible, and he takes great deal of pride in his special teams unit. And so you see that in the way that the special teams unit is formed and executed, on Sundays, and they played a good reason as to why we had, we were in a lot of games is because of field position, because of the way that we blocked, the guys returned well. And so he's been, I think, top 10, the past few years from a special team standpoint, and somebody that you should they should highly consider keeping around.
Absolutely. I like the defense and the special teams this past season. I thought the Gus Bradley and Bubba Ventrone both did an excellent job at their positions. But like Jerraud said, Steichen's going to be hiring his own guys, right? And so
that's true.
I guess there is a chance that they both of those guys could end up staying, depending upon how the meetings go with him and the guy, the team meetings that they're going to have. But we just have to wait and see, right? I mean, he's got history not just with the Eagles. We talked about the Chargers. There's guys he's worked with on the Chargers that he might be looking at and going, man, I'd really like him to be the quarterback's coach, or something of that nature. So we just have to wait and see on that.
Yep, people have their guys already lined up, man. It's crazy just listening to some stories about how it works. If you're up next or if your name's called in that list for head coaching a job, you're rallying the troops and you already have guys that you've, connected with and been able to form relationships with that. Hey, if I get that job, you're the first I'm hiring. You coming with. So it's all things are already done, and it looks as if they made announcements on Twitter right now as well. Announcing Shane as the new head coach. So it's official.
Absolutely, and it was an assumption. We started this episode going. They're going to make Shane the head coach. So we're just going to go into this assuming he is the coach. And congratulations, Shane Steichen, for being the new head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Can't wait to see what comes next for the team and yourself. Next week, I think we'll probably talk a little bit about some of his moves, maybe as the week progresses. If some moves happen, if he makes a few moves over this next week on some hirings, maybe we'll get together and discuss them a little bit. There's definitely an episode soon that I want to get to about the Indianapolis Colts free agents, where I want to talk about, should we keep or should we just let them walk, on the free agent list, which, of course, Rodney, you're in there, obviously. So, but thank you so much. Is there any final words that you want to talk about with the hiring of Shane Steichen as the Indianapolis Colts head coach, Jerraud?
No, I'm glad the process is over. Now we can focus on the draft and try to get the best players we can possibly get in the building.
Absolutely. Well, I guess free agency is before the draft, but the draft is very important, obviously. Rodney?
Yeah, just want to say congrats, man, to Shane Steichen, man. Worked hard to be now in this position, and congratulations to you now as the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Like I said, if more news comes out this week about hirings, filling out the positions for Shane Steichen and Indianapolis Colts, we will get to that. But I'm Lawrence Owen. That's Jerraud Powers, Rodney McLeod. This was Believe in Colts, brought to you by Bet Online. And as usual, go Colts.
Do you believe?